deaf woman faces a masked predator in a remote forest, turning her home into a battleground for survival. The story begins in a secluded forest, where Maddie is preparing food for dinner. While cooking, she notices a message from her neighbor Sarah, who wants to visit. Maddie agrees and calls her cat for dinner and feeds it. As Sarah arrives, Maddie greets her outside. Sarah enthusiastically shares that she's read Maddie's book. Knowing Maddie is deaf, Sarah tries to communicate using sign language. Their conversation is interrupted by the fire alarm blaring inside the house. They rush in. Maddie disables the alarm while Sarah retrieves the lamb from the oven. Later, the two sit on the porch and Sarah invites Maddie to her house for dinner since Maddie's meal was ruined, but Maddie declines, saying she has work to do. After Sarah leaves, Maddie receives a message from Craig, her ex-boyfriend, saying he's thinking of her. Maddie deletes the message and spends the evening eating and working on her new novel. Suddenly, Sarah appears outside her window, frantically banging on the door, begging for help. Before Maddie notices, Sarah is shot with an arrow and killed by a masked man. While Maddie, oblivious to the events outside, continues her work, the masked man starts observing Maddie through her window. He knocks on the glass to test if she can hear, and when she doesn't react, he drags Sarah's body away. Maddie receives a FaceTime call from her sister. She shares her struggles with writing and talks about Craig, while her sister encourages her to stop isolating herself and return to the city. When her sister notices someone in the background moving on camera, Maddie assumes it's her cat and ends the call to search for it. As Maddie looks for her cat, she receives a chilling photo message taken from her phone, pictures of her searching the house moments earlier. Alarmed, Maddie cautiously approaches the door and sees the killer standing outside, holding her phone. Maddie manages to slam the door shut just in time. The killer tries every entrance but fails to get inside. When Maddie attempts to call 911 using her laptop, the killer cuts the power, leaving her helpless. Maddie attempts to connect to Sarah's Wi-Fi network, but doesn't know the password. The killer toys with her by circling the house and slashing her car tires. She writes a message on her door, using a flashlight to highlight it. The killer removes his mask and asks if she can read his lips.
Can you read my lips?
Maddie nods, and he taunts her, saying he can enter the house whenever he wants, but will only do so when she wishes for death. Maddie arms herself with a knife and hammer, barricading her bedroom and pulling the curtains. She peers outside but sees nothing. She remembers Sarah had her phone in her pocket and decides to retrieve it. Using her car keys, she activates the car alarm to distract the killer. He investigates the noise, giving Maddie a chance to search Sarah's body. Before she can grab the phone, the killer returns. Maddie slams the window on his fingers and stabs him. The killer tears a piece of Sarah's shirt to wrap his wound. Maddie retreats inside and hides. The killer attempts to break in again. Maddie distracts him by tossing her flashlight into the woods and climbs out onto the roof. As the killer searches for the flashlight, Maddie tries to climb down quietly, but he surprises her, shooting her with his crossbow. Despite being injured, she pushes him off the roof and takes his crossbow. She struggles to load it, and he pursues her. Maddie manages to escape back into the house, using the weapon to scare him off temporarily. In the bathroom, Maddie tends to her wound, disinfecting it and wrapping it tightly. While recovering, she examines the crossbow, but finds it difficult to load, while the killer watches her through the bathroom window. Maddie replays different escape scenarios in her head. Her inner voice advises her that she can't run, hide, or wait, and the only way out is that she must kill the killer. The killer, confident in his victory, smokes a cigarette and plans his next move. Maddie surprises him by shooting him with the crossbow, though the injury isn't fatal. She retreats into the house, but he traps her hand in a door and breaks her hand. But she manages to lock him out again. Using her blood, Maddie writes, "Do it, coward," on the glass door. The killer retrieves a wrench to break in. Maddie leaves a description of the killer in an open document on her laptop and writes a final message to her parents. As the killer enters through the bathroom window, Maddie senses his breath on her neck. She dodges his attack and stabs him. She flees to the kitchen but collapses, seemingly unconscious. The killer approaches to finish her off, but Maddie blinds him with wasp spray and activates her fire alarm, incapacitating him further. A struggle ensues. Just as he overpowers her, Maddie grabs a wine opener and fatally stabs him. Exhausted, she retrieves her phone from his pocket and calls 911 before passing out. Later, Maddie regains consciousness and sits on her porch, her cat by her side, as the police arrive.